Chapter 8. Who is Shiva? What if I had arrived at a different answer? Asked Shiva. Then we would have known that it is not yet time for evil to have risen. Answered Gopal. That the Somras is still a force of good? Isn't that rather simplistic? Did you really believe that a random untested foreigner would arrive at the right answer to the most important question of this age? Is this the way the system works? Gopal smiled. In truth, no. The system is very different. If I am not mistaken, one of the Vasudev Pandits has told you about the Vayuputras. Just like we are the tribe left behind by the previous Vishnu, the Vayuputras are the tribe left behind by the previous Mahadev, Lord Rudra. The institutions of the Vishnu and the Mahadev work in partnership with each other. The Vasudevs interact closely with the Vayuputras. We defer to them from the question that has been reserved by Lord Manu for them. What is evil? And they defer to us from the question that has been reserved for us. What is the next good? The Vayuputras control the institution of the Nilkant. They train possible candidates for the role of the Nilkant, and if they believe that evil has risen, they allow the identification of a Nilkant. Kali did tell me about this. But how do the Vayuputras engineer a man's throat turning blue at the time of their choosing? I have heard that they administer some medicine to the candidate as he enters adolescence. The effect of this medicine remains dormant in his throat for years till it manifests itself on his drinking the somras at a specific age. I believe the somras reacts with the traces of the medicine already present in the man's throat to make his neck appear blue. All these activities have to be done at the specific time periods in the man's life if this is to happen the way it has always been conceptualized. For example, if a man drinks the somras more than 15 years after adolescence, his throat will not turn blue, even if he had taken the Vayuputra medicine as a child. Shiva's eyes opened wide. This is seriously complicated. It's a means by which the system could be controlled. As you can imagine, it is only the Vayuputras who could control the process such that a man's throat would turn blue at the appointed hour. People's blind faith in the legend would ensure that they would follow the Nilkant and evil would be taken out of the equation. I must mention that for some time now we had begun to believe that the Somras was turning evil. But we do not control the institution of the Nilkant. The Vayuputras do, and they believe the Somras was still good. Therefore, they refuse to release their Nilkant nominee. Even though we were convinced that it was time for the Nilkant to appear, it did not happen. Did you present your case to the Vayuputras? We did, but they did not agree. The only alternative available to us was to try and find a solution by the Vishnu method of creating another good. This is what we were deeply engaged with when an event occurred that stunned everyone, including the Vayuputras. Shiva pointed at himself. I suddenly emerged out of nowhere. Yes, nobody really understood what had happened. We knew you were not a Vayuputra authorized candidate. Many Vayuputras in fact believed that you were a fraud who would be exposed soon enough. Some even wanted you assassinated in the interests of the institution of the Nilkant. But the leader of the Vayuputras, the Mitra, prevailed upon them and decreed that you be allowed to live out your karma. Why would the Mitra do that? I don't know. That is a mystery. There was a lot of debate amongst us as well. Some of us believed that your emergence proved us right and we should use you to take the Somras out of the equation. There were others who thought that you were an unknown entity who could use the Nilkant legend to create chaos. Therefore, we should have nothing to do with you. But there were also those amongst us who believed it is not our job to determine the fate of evil. That is the sole preserve of the Nilkant. Still others debated against us that you were, after all, with due apologies, a mere barbarian, and chances were you would arrive at an incorrect conclusion to what constituted evil. But the view that finally prevailed was that if the Paramatma has chosen to make you the Nilkant, he will also lead you to the right answer, and we should, with all humility, accept that. And I arrived at the Somras. Doesn't it make the decision obvious then? You were not marked for this task, yet somehow you were given the Vayuputra medicine at the right age. Furthermore, you also arrived in Meluha at the appropriate time and were administered the Somras that made your throat turn blue. You were not trained for the role of a Nilkant. Nobody gave you the answer to the key question. We consciously refused to say anything that would create a bias in your mind. We were very careful in our communications with you regarding your task, and yet you arrived at the right answer. Isn't this ample proof that you have been chosen by the Paramatma and that you are truly the Mahadev? Doesn't it make my decision easy then, that in following you, we are following Paramatma himself? Shiva leaned back on his chair, rubbing his forehead. His brow felt uncomfortable. On returning from their short tour of Ujjain, Brahaspati, Ganesh and Kartik joined Sati, Nandi and Parshuram at the guest house. "How's the city, Brahaspati ji?" asked Sati. "Beautiful and well organized," answered Brahaspati. "The city is a better rendition of Lord Ram's principles than even Meluha and Panchavati." Sati turned to Ganesh and Kartik. "My sons, did you like the city?" Ganesh's tactical mind reflected in his opinion. "Though Ujjain is nice, what fascinated me were the elephant stables. We watched the mahouts tend to these beasts of war, each one of the 5,000 of them equivalent to 1,000 foot soldiers. I dare say our strength has increased manifold, given that the Vasudevs follow the Nilkant. With these elephants on our side, we are not as precariously placed as we were earlier." "Precariously placed?" asked Parshuram. "Lord Ganesh, forgive me for disagreeing with you, but how can you say that? We have the Nilkant with us. That means a vast majority of Indians will be with us. I would say that the odds overwhelmingly favor us." "Parshuram, I have always admired your bravery and your utter devotion to the Nilkant. But hope alone does not win battles. Only an honest evolution of one's weaknesses followed by their mitigation can win the day." "What weaknesses can we have? We are led by the Nilkant. The people will follow him." "The people will follow the Nilkant, but their kings won't. And remember, the people do not control the army, kings do. Emperor Daksha is already against us. So is Emperor Dilipa. Together they have the technological wizardry of Meluha and the sheer numbers of Swadweep. That makes a very strong army." "But Dada," argued Kartik, "even the most capable army is of little use if it is led by incapable leaders. Do you see any good generals on their side? I see none. Ganesh shook his head and looked at Brahaspati and Nandi before turning back to Kartik. They have the best. They have Lord Parvateshwar. Sati burst angrily. Ganesh, I have warned you to desist from insulting Pitritulya. I know he is like a father to you, Ma, said Ganesh politely. But the truth is Lord Parvateshwar will fight for Meluha. No, he will not. Your father trusts him completely. How can you believe that he will escape and join those who tried to kill the Nilkant? Ma, Parvateshwar ji has too much honor to escape. He will leave openly once he has revealed his intentions to Baba, and trust me, Baba will let him go. He will not even try to stop him, for they are both honorable men who would rather bring harm upon themselves than forsake their honor. Indeed, he is an honorable man, Ganesh. Will that sense of duty not bind him to the path of the Nilkant? No, Parvateshwar ji is with Baba because he is inspired by him, not because he is honor-bound to follow him. He is supremely committed to one value alone, as in fact all Meluhans are, the protection of Meluha. You can ask any of the Meluhans here. Nandi's eyes flashed with anger as the normally affable man stared at Shiva's son, his eyes unblinking. Lord Ganesh, I have already made my choice. I live for the Nilkant and I will die for the Nilkant. If that means I have to oppose my country, so be it. I will face my karma for having betrayed my country, but I will not have you questioning my loyalty again. Ganesh immediately reached out to Nandi. I was not questioning your loyalty, brave Nandi. I was wondering how you think great Parvateshwar will react. I don't know what the general thinks, I only know what I think. Nandi bristled. Well, I know how Parvateshwar thinks, said Brahaspati. I realize this will hurt you, Sati, but Ganesh is right. Parvateshwar will not abandon Meluha. In fact, he will battle those who seek to hurt Meluha, and Shiva, as I hope, decides that the Somras is evil, then Meluha will be our prime enemy. The battle lines are drawn, my child. Wordlessly, Sati looked out of the window at the Vishnu temple and sighed. Shiva rubbed his brow as he pondered over the mysteries of his childhood. Gopal bent forward. What is it, great Nilkant? It is not the hand of fate, Panditji, said Shiva. Neither it is the great plan of the Paramatma that I emerged as the Nilkant. I suspect it was my uncle's doing, though how he did all this is a mystery to me. What do you mean? I remember being administered some medicine in my childhood by my uncle. I used to suffer severe burning between my brows from when I was very young. My uncle's medicine helped me calm the burning sensation. The throbbing persists to this day, but it is not as bad as it used to be. I still recall his words as he read the medicine. We will always remain faithful to your command, Lord Rudra. This is the blood oath of a Vayuputra. Then he would prick his index finger and let the blood drop into the potion. It was the mix that he gave to me, and bade me rub it into the back of my throat. Gopal's eyes had been pinned on Shiva, fascinated. He briefly looked at the Vasudev Pandit from the Ayodhya temple, who was sitting in the first row. The Ayodhya Vasudev spoke up. Great Nilkant, what was the name of your uncle? Manobhu, said Shiva. The stunned Ayodhya Vasudev turned to Gopal. In the great name of Lord Ram. What is it? asked a surprised Shiva. Lord Manubhu was your uncle? Asked Gopal. Lord Manubhu? He was a Vayuputra lord, one of the Amartya Spandh, a member of the council of 6 wise men and women who rule the Vayuputras under the leadership of the Mitra. He was a Vayuputra lord? Yes, he was, many years ago, when we were still trying to convince the Vayuputras about the Somras having turned evil. He was the only one amongst the Amartya Spandh who had agreed with us. Unfortunately, he got no support from the others in the council. The Mitra had also overruled Lord Manubhu. What happened thereafter? I remember that conversation as if it happened yesterday, said Gopal. Lord Manubhu and I had spoken for hours about the Somras. It was obvious that he would not be able to convince the council. He had promised that he would ensure a Nilkant arose. When I asked him how he would do it, he said that Lord Rudra would help him. He made me promise that when the Nilkant did arise, the Vasudevs and I would support him wholeheartedly. I assured him that this was our duty in any case. And then, what happened? Lord Manubhu disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to him. Some believed that he had gone back to his homeland of Tibet, since he had been isolated in the Vayuputra Council. Some thought he had been killed. I tended to believe the latter, for only death could have stopped a man like him from fulfilling his promise. But he did not fail. He created you. Where is he now? How did he contrive to get you invited to Meluha and receive the Somras? He didn't. He died many years ago, at a peace conference in a cowardly ambush mounted on him by the Pakritis, our local enemies in Tibet. Then how were you invited into Meluha within that specific time? As I have told you, your throat could turn blue only if you drank the Somras within 15 years of entering adolescence. I don't know, answered Shiva. Nandi just happened to come to Mansarovar at that time, asking for immigrants. Gopal looked up at the central pillar of the temple towards the idols of Lord Ram and Lady Sita. It is obvious then, it was the will of the Almighty that events unfolded the way they did. Shiva looked at Gopal, his eyes revealing skepticism that his life was somehow all part of a divine plan. Gopal tactfully changed the topic. My friend, you said that your brow has throbbed from a very young age. Did it happen after a specific incident? Did your uncle give you something which started the burning sensation? Shiva frowned. No, I have had it as long as I can remember. I think from when I was born. Whenever I would get upset, my brow would start throbbing. Would this happen when your heart rate went up dramatically? Shiva thought about it for a second. Yes, whenever I am angry or upset, my heart does beat dramatically, or when I think of Sati, but that is a happy heartbeat. Gopal smiled. Which means your third eye has been active from the time of your birth, and that is very rare. It convinces me that you are the one chosen by the Paramatma. Third eye. It is the region between one's brows. It is believed that there are 7 chakras or vortices within the human body, which allow the reception and transmission of energy. The 6th chakra is called the Ajna chakra, the vortex of the third eye. These chakras are activated by yogis after years of practice. Of course, they can also be activated by medicines. The Vayuputras use medicines to activate the third eye of those amongst their young who are potential candidates. But in all of my 140 years, I have yet to hear of a child born with his third eye active. So what is so special about that? It just causes me trouble. It burns dreadfully. Gopal smiled. That is just a small side effect. I believe that your active third eye could be one of the reasons why your uncle thought you may have been the chosen one, for it set your body up to easily accept the Vayuputra medicine. How so? The Parihan system of medicine believes that the pineal gland, which exists deep within our brain, is the third eye. It is a peculiar gland. The cortical brain is divided into two equal hemispheres, which most components exist in pairs. The singular pineal gland, however, is present between the two hemispheres. It is a little like an eye and is impacted by light. Darkness activates it, and light inhibits it. A hyperactive pineal gland is regenerative. This is probably what made your body such that the somras did not only lengthen your life but also repaired your injuries. Furthermore, the pineal gland is not covered by the blood barrier system. Blood barrier system. Yes, one's blood flows freely throughout the body, but there is a barrier when it approaches the brain. Perhaps this is so as to prevent germs and infections from affecting the brain, the seat of one's soul. However, the pineal gland, despite being lodged between the two hemispheres, is not covered by the blood barrier system. It is obvious why your third eye throbs when you're upset. That is the result of blood gushing through your hyperactive pineal gland. Shiva nodded slowly. Does this happen to others? Yes, it does, but only amongst those who practice decades of yoga to train their third eye, or it is active amongst those who are given medicines to stimulate it. What is unnatural about your case is that you were born with an active third eye. This is unheard of. Shiva shifted uneasily in his chair. So a congenital event just set me up for this role. My uncle could have got it all wrong. I could still be an erroneous choice, and maybe I will not achieve the purpose set out for me. But I am sure your uncle did not give you the medicine merely because of your active third eye. He would have judged your character and found you worthy. He must have trained you for this. I was trained by him, no doubt. He taught me ethics, warfare, psychology, arts, but he did not say anything to me about my purported task. You must concede he did an excellent job, though, for you have done well as the Nilkant. Just luck, said Shiva wryly. Great Nilkant, a non-believer will credit luck for one's achievements. But a believer in the Paramatma like me will know that the Nilkant has achieved all that he has because the Paramatma willed it. And that means that the Nilkant will complete his journey and eventually succeed in taking evil out of the equation. Shiva smiled. Sometimes faith can lean towards oversimplicity. Gopal smiled in return. Maybe simplicity is what this world needs right now. Shiva laughed softly and looked at the audience of Vasudev Pandits, listening to the two of them with rapt attention. Well, many of my doubts have been cleared. The Somras is the greatest good and will therefore one day certainly emerge as the greatest evil. But how do we know that the moment has arrived? How can we be sure? One of the Vasudev Pandits answered, We can never be completely sure, great Nilkant. but if you allow me to express an opinion, we have had a good which has had a glorious journey for thousands of years, and humanity has grown tremendously with its munificence. However, we also know that it is close to becoming evil now. It is possible that the Somras is taken out of the equation a trifle early, and the world will lose out on a few hundred of years of additional good that it could do. But that pales in comparison to the enormous contribution it has already made for thousands of years. On the other hand, there is a risk that the Somras is getting closer to evil and is likely to lead to chaos and destruction. It is already causing it in substantial measure. I am not merely referring to the plague of Branga or the deformities of the Nagas. It is believed that Somras is also responsible for the drastic fall in the birth rate of the Meluhans. Really? Yes, answered Gopal. Perhaps in refusing to embrace death, they pay the price of not seeing their own genes propagate. Shiva acknowledged that he had understood with a gentle nod. The massive images of Lord Ram and Lady Sita that formed the curved central pillar seemed to smile at him. Accepting their blessings, his eyes were drawn farther towards a grand painting depicting Lord Ram at the feet of Lord Rudra in the backdrop of holy Rameshwaram. Shiva smiled at the giant circle of life. He joined his hands together in a respectful namaste, closed his eyes and prayed. Jai Ma Sita, Jai Shri Ram. Shiva was resolute as he opened his eyes and beheld Gopal. I have made my decision. We will strive to avoid war and needless bloodshed. But should our efforts prove futile, we shall fight to the last man. We will end the reign of the Somras.